Three guys, hot debates, bold takes, and yes, we may not always find the end zone, but hey, we always put points on the board. Settle for three, where the only thing we take seriously is the game.
All right, guys, welcome to Settle for Three. Joey, Cameron, Evan, how you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Happy Tuesday for recording this week.
So
Like
I
it's a
got,
complete throw off.
yeah, I got a quick question for each of you. But first, Cameron, you became internet famous this past week. Do we think you'll be drinking some hot sauce anytime soon? Again?
It's possible that I'll continue making some poor picks,
Uh,
but
that's likely.
at the moment, I don't have any reason to be drinking the hot sauce. That wasn't a bet made for this week.
Great. Evan, top moment of the college football season.
So I have a pick that Cameron is not going to be happy with, but it's for a different reason than he thinks. And that is Tennessee beating Alabama. Obviously, everybody here knows I'm a huge Tennessee fan. Cameron, big Alabama fan. We grew up together, going back and forth against this rival. This year felt like we officially have a rivalry again.
Mhm.
And it has not felt like that in a really, really long time. So I am ecstatic. DeBoer is 0-1 against Tennessee. I have to say that because Cameron always loves talking about Saban's record. But
16-1. Let's just go ahead and say it.
yeah, but that's fine. DeBoer, 0-1.
It's fair.
That's my moment.
The board might not make it past 0-2 or 0-3 or 0-4.
Ooh,
We'll see. Cameron, your
that's a
moment.
take.
That's a take.
The Alabama team coming together to beat Georgia in what was probably game of the year, at least for me. That was incredible. Again, that first half, watching the Alabama offense go ballistic, watching Georgia come back was one of the most nervous and anxious moments of my life. And then to end that game with Ryan Williams going down the field and with the interception on Carson Beck, yeah, that whole game was just a giant heartwarming thing for me. I loved it.
Well, I hate that we all picked Alabama moments because mine is too. Mine is Vandy beating Alabama, and not because I just want to pick on Cameron's team or my wife's team, but it just shows that we're getting parity in college football. You're going to start to see a lot of more of these bottom dweller Power Five teams raising their level, and they may not always win, but it's going to be more competitive, and you're going to see less powerhouses going undefeated. They may be powerhouses, but you're going to see a lot less of them going undefeated. So I was
You know,
just glad. Yeah, go ahead.
I think going forward, we're going to have to choose someone outside of the SEC for all three of us. Just what is your unbiased
It's in
opinion
our
I
on
mean,
it's in our
season?
it's in our blood,
well,
dude. It's in
yeah,
our blood.
maybe. But it does have to be stated that DeBoer cannot beat any team in Tennessee.
It's DeBoer, right? Not DeBoer.
It's
That's what I
Defier,
said.
probably.
I'm a little under the weather. Okay, whatever.
All right, let's move this show on the road. We got an exciting one tonight. Not only will we recap the national championship game, but guys, we're going to talk some NFL football. You excited about that?
I don't
Settle for three first.
Yeah, I mean we can't ignore that. So we're gonna go ahead and talk the AFC NFC title games. We're gonna give our picks on those in a new segment that I'll introduce later. And then in the last word, Evan is going to give a diatribe on a subject very, very close to his heart. But before we get to all that, gotta talk about the national championship game. Wrap this season up. Guys, Ohio State's a national champ. Do you feel like we got the best team, Cameron?
Yeah, I think we got the best team. And while I may not agree with the entire selection of how all 12 teams were selected in the playoff, I do feel like the best team won. Ohio State, for a lot of people, was the number one team coming into the season, $20 million roster. Ryan Day, while he's not my favorite coach, he is a very good coach. I'm not shocked to see that this is how it ended.
Yeah, Ohio State, absolutely, hands down, best team in the country. This was a really fun game for about a quarter and a half. Riley Leonard, he tried to put the entire team on his back in that first quarter.
It was insane.
I think he had 9 rushes plus a touchdown in that first quarter.
Yeah, that's
Took
correct.
up pretty much the entire time. Unfortunately, Will Howard, I think best quarterback rating I've seen in like forever. 99.1, I think it was. That was insane. Will Howard connected on every level. And then on the opposite side, Notre Dame, they're not one to be behind on a first down. They're just not a team that can really come back from that. And they did that on way too many occasions. That defensive front for Ohio State really got ahead of it. They backed them up, and the whole Notre Dame offense just didn't have an answer.
All right, Cameron, I'm gonna jump to you here in a bit, but first, I said that I would do this last night. I'm gonna put us on camera here because at halftime I texted you guys and said this game's over. And I was pretty emphatic about it. And I wrote first half notes for this game, assuming this game was over. So I'm gonna read you word for word what I wrote, and then Cam, you can take it from there. But first half, Notre Dame held the ball for 18 plays, 75 yards, 9 minutes and 45 seconds on their first drive. The rest of the half, 3 possessions, 7 plays, 3 yards, 3 minutes and 38 seconds time of possession. And you saw, as Evan alluded to, how exhausted Riley Leonard was in that offense. Guys, they did exactly what I would have done. But that is not a sustainable game plan for 60 minutes, let alone a single half. So obviously, they came back in the second half, had a shot, but Cam, I know there's a lot you want to point out in the second half, so we'll just send it to you.
So Evan, he had a good take on Will Howard. He went 14 of 15 for 144 yards in the first half and 2 TDs. Do you know what he did in the second half? Maybe not. I'll go ahead and remind you. He went 3 of 6 for 87 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 57 of those yards came on a deep ball to Jeremiah Smith on the right side late in the
Ballsy call, by the way. Really ballsy call.
Yeah, it was, and it was a heck of a play. I'm not taking anything away. But if you think that Will Howard was the great player of the day, he played an excellent first half. Will not take anything away. But that second half, Ryan Day did everything he actively could after they scored early on in the third quarter to try and lose that game. Frankly, they were a couple of opportunities away from talking about Notre Dame from probably losing it. If they don't do a fake punt on their own 30-yard line in the third quarter while down by 24, again, that was just a horrible call. Please don't ever do that again. Go for it and send Riley Leonard up the middle. It's ridiculous. The other thing is, on the field goal, why do you kick a field goal? You're down 14 with under 10 minutes to go in the game. Both of those were just completely missed calls by Marcus Freeman.
Beta call right there.
Yeah, genuinely hated both of those. Now, the one thing I will say, Ohio State shut down Notre Dame's rushing attack. Right? Or Jeremiah Love had, 3 yards in the game on 4 carries? Yeah, that's how you answer that bell. And then the other crazy part was Jaden Greathouse, 6 receptions for 128 yards, averaging 21 yards per catch on the Notre Dame side of the ball in that second half. Absolutely lit it up once Riley Leonard got going. The problem was too little too late. But yeah. One other thing I'm going to call out to Thomas Santel, who was kind enough to leave 4 comments in our section. You're right. I was wrong about the game, but it was far closer than the 38-13 game that you anticipated. That was about the halftime score, though. Be sure to keep commenting on those and letting us know how bad we suck. We'd love to hear it.
Hey, and I do want to point out before you go, your head is next to the winner. Cameron's head is next to the loser. So congratulations. I wish you had made a bet with him because we'd be watching Cam drink some hot sauce and deal with the consequences afterwards.
You know what? We're going to keep letting the record talk for itself because I am on top when it comes to these records. Hold on. I just got to say one thing because you brought this up. Ohio State, say anything we want about having a $20 million roster because that is absolutely a tagline, but they still need to be coached and developed. And Ryan Day did just a phenomenal job yesterday in this game.
Yeah,
until they almost allowed Notre Dame to come back.
Yeah, almost. But
they took their foot off the gas. I just want to say real quick, Cam, Notre Dame running a cover 0 on 3rd and 11 late in the game. Now, that defensive call has to go perfectly in order for it to work. I honestly thought they should have played a little more conservative, still blitz, bring the pressure, make Will Howard feel it, but that was just that couldn't have gone perfectly for Ohio State there.
So I think I actually texted you guys. If it was me, I probably would have played like a two-man under press man coverage with two safeties over top. On a 3rd and 11, Ryan Day is playing to win that game. He's not playing to tie it. I think I could have told you he was going to throw the ball. It was a beautifully placed ball by Will Howard, but yeah, I think I would have left the safety over the top.
Yeah, as I was about to text you back after you said that, game was already on the 2-yard line. So
Yeah.
Do you guys?
One player.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say one player we haven't mentioned yet, and he's my MVP for the game. Is
Judkins.
Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah,
uh,
Yeah, he was
100
great.
yards and 2 touchdowns, nearly averaging 10 yards a carry. I'm sure Kiffin was absolutely rolling over, missing him. But what a game from Judkins.
you do need to point out, though, that one of those runs was 70 yards. So
No, anytime he was getting the ball, it was a physical game that he was playing. Even if it was a 3 yards in a cloud of dust, he was hitting and driving forward. His legs did not stop moving.
Let me throw a conspiracy theory out there. You think if Ryan Day blows a 31-7 lead in the national championship game, he keeps his job next year?
no. Cameron and I have said this so many times. If he didn't win yesterday, I don't think he was keeping his job. And I'm not even saying that this national championship win is going to keep him for a dynasty. If he doesn't win that Michigan game and he doesn't continue to win national championships, look what happened to Ed Orgeron then at LSU. Led one of the best teams to ever play college football in 2019 to a national championship. 2 years later, out.
Ohio
Yeah.
State has 3 goals every year, Joey. In those 3 goals, it's beat Michigan, win a Big Ten championship, and win a national title.
Well,
If
they only
didn't
did
do
one of
any
those
one
three.
exactly. If they don't do any of those 3 in a season, and he makes it to the national title but still loses, yeah, I think he's probably done.
Ohio State won their first 4-team playoff 10 years ago, and they just won the first 12-team playoff. Seems like a fitting spot to and a fitting way to end the college football season. You guys ready to talk about NFL?
Let's turn the page.
You guys know anything about NFL?
What does that stand
Quick
for?
study.
National something league.
No, it's funny. I watch a lot of college ball. Obviously, it's my preference, but at the end of the day, I'm just a diehard football guy. I'll watch, Monday Night Football, Sunday Night Football. Happiest guy in the world doing it.
I mean,
Absolutely.
look at the ratings. Like regular season NFL games blew those first round games out of the water. So tells you where
Completely.
America's mind is out right now. But let's jump right to the AFC Championship game here. This is a great game, guys. Bills at Chiefs. I believe that one of the Chiefs' loss this season was to the Bills. It ended their chance at a perfect season. Kansas City is the favorite, -1.5. So that's, the home team gets 3 points in the NFL. So this is basically a pick 'em. I will say this is the 4th meeting between them in the playoffs since 2021. Bills have lost the previous 3. So guys, we got a rivalry.
Look, Kansas City, let's talk about just the back and forth in this. And I got to say up front, I love Josh Allen. I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. And I would love to say that they were going to take this. But all in all, their records, Josh Allen versus Mahomes, they're 50-50. However, in the playoffs, Josh Allen has never beaten Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is 16-3 in the postseason. Meanwhile, Josh Allen, he's what, 7-5? And here's the thing, Josh Allen, he is that quarterback that a team just wants to get around. They want to be behind him because he's going to put the team on his back. And that shows in his 9 rushing touchdowns this year. When nobody's open, he scrambles, he makes it into the end zone. However, Kansas City, their defense is no joke. They are physical. They're ready for Josh Allen. In that first matchup, they barely lost, and they were missing a couple of really big weapons on the offensive side. And that offense for Kansas City, they're just too well-rounded, too methodical, and it's going to be a really high-scoring game.
I mean, I got a trivia question for you real quick. Name a quarterback that has a receiving touchdown each of the last 2 seasons.
I'm going to say Josh Allen.
Yeah, you were absolutely correct. So this guy literally does it all. And if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson going nuclear this season, Josh Allen would be the NFL MVP. They have a little help. James Cook, 1,000-yard back. He's a good guy. But honestly, guys, this team lives and dies by Allen. He's going to have an epic, special game for this to happen. So, Cam, I know you're about to say something crazy, so just spit it out here.
I was really hoping Evan was going to take the Chiefs. I genuinely had no idea. I thought I was just going to be splitting hairs on the spread. Okay, so the good news is here, Evan, I have a bet for you going towards next week. The loser, and honestly, this may be better suited for the winner, now that I think about it, has the opportunity to jump on a table like a Bills Mafia fan. What do you think of that, Ev?
Break your ankles.
I don't want to break an ankle, but I'm
How-
definitely willing to break some ribs.
How high does the table have to be?
It's just a normal height, table. Some people may reference it as fraternity
All right.
pong.
As long as we split the cost, yeah, I'm down.
Okay. And
if
is
I
that
break
winner
it,
or is
then-
that loser? Because I
Hold
always
on.
think it is a rite of passage.
Well, I'm going to say it's a loser only because I know for a fact I'm injuring myself on this if I lose.
Okay. So loser jumps on a table.
Yeah,
Done.
loser jumps on a table and you have to pay the medical bills.
I have good insurance. I hope you do too. I'm happy to pay your deductible.
All right, Cameron, give us your thoughts without giving us your pick.
All right. So obviously, I'm leaning a different way than Evan is. I look at the Bills. They've been excellent for the past 5 years with Josh Allen. You guys already mentioned it. You live and breathe and die by Josh Allen in this game. This is the most efficient version of him that we've ever seen. I believe that with his ability to throw and buy time, forcing man-to-man scenarios because you have to respect his run game with a spy, I think this is a really, really good matchup. Josh Allen had 531 yards in the regular season. Additionally, it's part of what I really think forces them to have to respect the fact that he can run. The key question of the day for me is, can Kansas City's corner Trent McDuffie and Shamari Connor guard Bills receivers Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel? In the previous game, they gave up 128 yards and 1 touchdown. So, and let's remember, the Bills won 31-20 in that prior matchup. Amari Cooper was also just learning that system. I'm also leaving out Kincaid. There are a number of weapons on that offensive side. The other question I have, can the Bills defense contain the Kansas City offense? Andy Reid's ability to dial things up in the postseason is the best that there is, period. Nobody does it better than he does. However, in the prior game that they had this season, Mahomes was held to under 200 yards, and Mahomes was also held to under 200 yards in the last game that they played. I think that Greg Rousseau will need a couple of sacks in this game, but I really like the Bills D-line.
The Chiefs have won games on offense, defense, and special teams this year. They've come behind in a lot of games this year. Guys, Patrick Mahomes is having his second worst statistical season since becoming a starter. Kansas City leans on its defense. 9th in points allowed. Now, here's the crazy part. Only one player on their defense, Chris Jones, is going to a Pro Bowl. So my point is, this is just a really, really solid group of guys that play well together. And all I'm saying is, I think both these defenses are going to come to play. You guys ready to move on, or any final points on this?
I actually have one more point.
Yeah, go
for
ahead.
you, Joey.
Yep.
In the last, this is coming from Sharp Football Analytics. Found it online while I was trying to research some
Sponsor us.
flag throwing. Chiefs have played in 11 playoff games since 2021. Do you know how many times the Chiefs have had more penalties than their opponents in the playoffs?
Probably every year, right?
In those
Yeah,
11
one more.
games,
Oh,
how many
th-
times have they had more penalties than their opponents have?
I'm going to say more than less.
Sure.
I'm going to
So you're
say
gonna
more
go
than
with, like,
50%. I'm going to say 6.
Evan?
Yeah, sure. 7. Price is right.
The
Come on,
Chiefs
man.
have not had a game, period, in the playoffs, 0, where they have had more penalties than their opponent. If you feel that that is ironic, in the regular season, they have 57% of those games they favor. I'm not somebody that ever calls on referee bias in a game, but
As an Alabama fan,
if you were ever looking for a reason to dive in a little bit deeper, If you think that there's not a single playoff game that they've played in the last 5 years that hasn't been the case, that's a bit ridiculous.
Guys, I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are America's team anymore because the team actually located near our nation's capital just might be America's team. I'm talking about the Jaden Daniel-led Washington Commanders. And I'm going to say in my head, it's Commanders, 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 because I mess that up all the time. Philly, unfortunately, Philly's a 6.5 point favorite, basically a touchdown. Over unders 47.5. But guys, Jaden Daniels is a bona fide star. He's a lock for Rookie of the Year, and he should honestly get votes for NFL MVP. But you guys know this guy really well, being from Atlanta, Dan Quinn. The guy has coached his butt off this year, and he has a team with nothing to lose, and they're one win away with a rookie quarterback from going into Super Bowl. Cam, you want to dive in here?
You got it. So the Eagles have allowed 16 points per game in the playoffs. However, the secondary was roasted for 320 yards last week against Matthew Stafford, and the D-line has given up 100-plus yards on the running game over the last 2 games, or per game over the last 2 games. Meanwhile, the Commanders are putting up 34 points per game, averaging nearly 300 yards through the air. And then you also have Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, who have been lighting it up on the ground. I really like Jaden Daniels. I think he's played an excellent season. He's been super efficient, but the Eagles just have a ton of talent on this roster. It's going to be really hard for them to overcome. Are we giving our picks now, Joey, or are we waiting?
We're waiting. We're waiting.
You got it. Over to you, Evan.
Oh, yeah. So, like you said, Jaden Daniels has been absolutely phenomenal this season. He has, I mean, he's been nearly perfect. They're just not that well-rounded of a team. On the opposite side, we've got an Eagles team who has been really phenomenal. However, who knows if Jalen Hurts is going to come out as a healthy player. You know, he hasn't had a couple good games here, going out with an injury, I believe, in the last game. Now, the other thing is, the big question here is Dan Quinn and this Washington defense. They are the 3rd best in the NFL on passing defense, but I think they're 3rd to last on rushing defense. So the X factor here is really Saquon Barkley.
The Eagles aren't going to pass the ball.
They can't pass the
bench
ball.
AJ Brown.
You don't even need to. That's the fun part, because you got hopefully a mobile quarterback, and then you got Saquon Barkley, who has combined in the 2 times they've played Washington this year, I think it's 296 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, that's a lot. Where on the other side, you got Jaden Daniels, who has passed for just a bajillion yards, but he's also their head rusher on the team with over 800 rushing yards. So it's going to be a good game.
There's one really interesting fact on this one. That's the weather. It'll be 30 degrees at kickoff, which will potentially impact tossability through the game.
Yeah, dude, that game the other day, you see all that snow? That was absolutely nuts.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it's a high of 42 that entire day. So, I mean, this is basically Florida for the Eagles.
One last point on the Eagles. I mean, Jalen Hurts has been a game manager this season. When you have a back that rushes for 2,000 yards, you can do that. Eagles can beat you with the pass or the run game. Don't forget to have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown on the outside as a pretty good wide receiver tandem. Honestly, the Eagles this season they'll take what they can get from the opposing team. They'll just run it at you all day and win by 6 points if they need to. They've only had 7 wins this year by double digits, so half of their wins have been by single digits. And I think most of them have been by a touchdown or less. So they're not really the team that I think is going to feel like they have to blow Washington out. And honestly, they've struggled a little bit this postseason, even though they've won both games. So I'm saying don't count Washington out. And maybe that's a bit of foreshadowing for what we're going to do next. You guys ready for the pick party?
No.
Got my party hat on. All right. We're doing this.
The fact that you had to prepare with the party hat just made my day.
We only got 2 games today. Pick party. AC 1.5 point favorite. Over unders 47.5. You guys have to pick, Kansas City spread, Bills to cover and lose, or Bills money line. Just so, we have some differential in picks here. So, Evan, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So, obviously, with the line being 1.5 for Kansas City, I'm picking Kansas City. they're going to cover. One thing that I do need to say about the over-under on this, and I probably won't comment it on in the next game, but I think this over-under, I would take the over. The Bills are pretty much automatic for at least 3 touchdowns pretty much every single game, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to really blow off the doors on there, so I would take the over on that one. Second game.
Let's get his picks on this one first.
All right, so the score that I wrote down was actually 40-31. I have Bills winning this game. I think it'll be a really fun one to watch. Obviously, that's an over.
So you have Bills
Bills going over. Yeah, that would be what, 61 points, 71 points.
But do you have them to cover, or
I have Bills winning outright?
You have them winning outright. Okay. I got Kansas City to cover -1.5. I just think Josh Allen has to just be absolutely amazing to win this game, and he's going to have to be perfect. And somewhere in the fourth quarter, this is going to be a close game in the fourth quarter. Somewhere along the way, he's going to throw a pick, or there's going to be some mistake made that allows Kansas City to, I think, come back and win this game in the fourth quarter. I think they will be down in the fourth quarter. They're just like cockroaches; they won't die. And they're getting to that point of being like the Patriots, right?
Unless it's the officials that keep him in the game, I really think Buffalo's ready to take one to the jaw and absolutely respond with a knockout punch.
You think the NFL has the script ready to call down in the fourth quarter and get this to overtime?
I don't think it's a script, but if you have Xavier Worthy running down the right side and there's a questionable PI call, 9 times out of 10 that's being called if you're the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Eagles Commanders, Evan.
Yeah, so I've got the Eagles on this one, and I've got them to cover. Like I said, big story about this one is that run game on the Eagles. I don't think that Washington defense can keep up with it. They're going to chew a lot of time off the clock. They're going to score, and they're not going to give Jaden Daniels a whole lot of time to score. He's going to have to score really fast, which he's very capable of doing. But I don't know if he's going to be able to put the entire team on his back. So I'm going to Eagles, and I'm going for them to cover.
All right. I'm expecting, 47.5. I wrote down 20-24 Eagles to win. I don't think that the Eagles are going to cover, but I do think the Eagles are going to win. I think Jaden Daniels is going to play an excellent fourth quarter. I think it's probably 13-24 going into it. Eagles are held shut out in the fourth, but it's just not quite enough to overcome.
Honestly, guys, I'm going Washington. I just think to go in to Detroit against the best team in the NFC and lay a whooping on them. Now, Detroit had a lot of injuries, so let's preface that. But to go in and do that, this team is scared of nothing, okay? And I think this is just their year. I think that they win outright. And if this is a close game, do not trust Eagles kicker Jake Elliott, 28 for 36 this year. And he missed 2 extra points last week. So do not trust that guy if this is a close game. I think the Commanders win, and I think the under hits. I think it's going to be a very tight game.
Joey, I'll ask the question we're all wondering. If Jaden Daniels wins this game, is he the greatest rookie quarterback of all time? Or is he already, in your opinion?
I mean, it would be tough to not put him up there, right? If you go to the Super Bowl as a rookie. And it's not like this guy is a game manager on a team that's already built to win it. Like, they have a lot of great pieces. They did great in the offseason with their defensive pieces, adding to their defense. And Dan Quinn has done a great job coaching, but Jaden Daniels is the reason this team is where they is. So, yes. Yeah. Greatest rookie quarterback.
One thing I do want to give the Commanders a lot of credit for. They underwent a new general manager, new coaching staff, new DC, new OC. I mean, the amount of turnover, I believe they were expected to have 6 wins this season. To be standing where they are, still in the playoffs, is absolutely incredible, given what the expectations were.
All right, guys. Time for the last word. And Evan, this is going to be your segment. So why don't you just go ahead and give us a rant on whatever you're going to talk about?
Yeah, so today I really, really want to talk about officiating. Now that we've finished up the college football season, which had some major storylines when it came to officiating, and going on to the NFL, which also has a whole lot of officiating stories. I just don't understand at this point why there is no standard in officiating. You hear all the time when there are some questionable calls that we have a standard. That's fine. What is the standard? It's impossible to find what each one is. Almost every single conference pretty much governs and has a say in whatever type of official and whoever the officiating staff is going to be in a certain game, going back to college. And then you've got this reciprocal aspect between what's happening in the NFL versus what's happening in college. When there's something huge that happens in the NFL, you look at Tua early on in the season who goes out with an awful concussion. That officiating staff gets word on the college level that says, look, we need to protect our players. We need to protect the quarterback. So all of a sudden you see a bunch of crazy, just awful roughing the passer calls
For
that
simple
go on.
tackling. For simple tackling.
Exactly. I mean, you look at the personal foul for in South Carolina LSU early on in the season, that pick six that was called back for roughing the passer.
South
Where-
Carolina's in the playoffs if that call is made.
Exactly. Which Nussmeier, he was not a quarterback anymore. He had already thrown the ball. The ball had been picked off. He was going after the person returning that ball for a pick six, and he got blocked. And he got pushed down. Sorry. Bad call. And then Texas, Georgia, early on in the season. Not that this one would have changed the game, and yeah, it was probably the right call, but to just have a random break because people are throwing trash on the field, and then the call gets overturned where you are not even supposed to be able to review these types of calls is insane. And then, Cameron, I'll kick it to you right after this, but my biggest thing with this is officials are making decisions where coaches, players, people on the staff, they're getting bonuses for how they perform during a season. They are making multi-million-dollar decisions, and they don't have to answer for any of it. And I'm not saying that they love that part of it. They would probably love to be able to defend at least some of their calls. However, coaches and players, they both have to do press conferences afterwards for what happened right, what happened wrong. Officials, nothing, absolutely nothing, and nobody knows how it's governed.
And they hide behind a press release that's sent out like 2 days later. Oh, they missed
That
the
gives
call.
no information.
All right, I got a lot of points. Cameron, why don't you go first, though?
Evan may have hit on one of the most egregious flipped calls in college sports history with that Georgia-Texas game. If that game had slightly changed course and Texas had won it, throwing bottles and the precedent that set by allowing it to be reviewed because the fans actually got involved was truly the most egregious call in probably college sports, period. The crazy part about this is this transcends just college football because this goes up to the NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
Even this past weekend, we had Patrick Mahomes, who was a runner on a play. I believe this was in the third quarter. It was third down. He gets double teamed as a runner because he's a running back at this point. And because he gets tackled and they felt that they touched his head, which they genuinely did, and the two defenders basically ran into each other, they threw a flag. They gave him the first down. Lo and behold, Kansas City walks down the field, scores a touchdown. Game becomes pretty much out of reach at that point. It is so painful that at every level we just can't get this officiating right. And Evan, I couldn't agree more with what you said.
So yeah, for real. So bouncing off what you just said, Cam, Mahomes is to blame in this because he's one of those quarterbacks that'll fake run out of bounds and then swerve back into the field. But if you hit him, you're going to get called for a late hit, So, I mean, you guys remember in college where we had like the fake sliding That was like a big topic last year.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that was ever resolved, but that was a thing that we would see as quarterbacks would fake slide. And like quarterbacks are just as to blame. They take advantage of the system. On that Texans Chiefs game, I think a lot of calls are made on intent rather than result. So when they looked at it, they saw the heads go in of the Texans players. Their intent was to spear them. Now, that's not how the rule should be officiated. The rule should be officiated on, did their helmet make contact? Did he spear the other person in the helmet? Or did he use his helmet as a spear in any situation? But I feel like a lot of times the flag is thrown on intent only. Yeah, you missed a guy, but you were going in with your head, so we're gonna call you on it anyways. So I just don't think it's fair.
I hate the targeting call, and I think there's a lot of problem with it because you have malicious versus non-malicious.
For sure.
But one thing college football does have is the review of that penalty to actually see if it needs to assessed or should not be assessed. I don't see a reason that that should not be the case when you're looking at personal fouls.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. And Joe, you brought up kind of on the NFL side with Mahomes faking out and
That's ridiculous.
kind of bobbing and weaving. It is ridiculous. And it always reminds me, and I've said this for a while now, Kobe. One of the things that he was famous for is he studied the officiating playbooks, and he knew where all the blind spots were around the court, so he knew when he could foul. That's the same thing with a lot of these high-level quarterbacks who maybe don't have the biggest wow factors about them, but they win. You look at Tom Brady in that last Super Bowl that he won with Tampa Bay. There were some questionable calls that were happening. Yeah. But when you looked at the replays, if there was a pass interference that was going to be called, he knew he was never completing that pass, but he saw that defender was all over his receiver, so he specifically threw it in the ground near that receiver, got the call, got 15 yards, converted to a touchdown. That's what a lot of these smart quarterbacks are doing. So it's while I hate the rules, I can't even blame the players because they're just taking advantage of what's there and what they know they can get away with.
It's gamesmanship, right? I mean, they're not cheating, but they're cheating the system. But it's legal. I will say though, when the quarterback throws the ball and it's out of his hand for a millisecond, and you're going to call a late hit, what is the defender supposed to do? Because honestly, any attempt by them to pull up might hurt them, right?
Yep.
If you just tell your body, hey, I'm going to stop after running full speed at someone, you're asking for injuries on the other side of the ball. So
football is an inherently dangerous game. Sometimes there's no way around the hit. And I feel like a lot of the time this is trying to get ripped out when you can't. You don't want a bunch of Tua concussion-like issues. I get it. But you can't, to your point, Joey, you can't just stop mid-run right as somebody's about to throw. You don't even know that the ball's been released in a lot of circumstances. But putting your head down trying to make that hit.
It's also a publicity thing. Like, don't be fooled by the NFL. The NFL has been around for, 70 years now. People used to not wear helmets and hit each other, okay? This is a publicity thing because you have moms and dads saying, we're not going to let our kids play football anymore. And that hurts the sport. So this is the NFL's attempt to, we're going to make the game safer. But at the end of the day, I just don't know that they're calling things very fairly. So Evan, really good point. That's a great conversation that we'll probably do more of. But, I wanted to ask you guys a quick question. You notice all the social media sites we're now on down there? Huh? You see all that?
Love them.
I love it.
So Evan, I want you to take us out and tell people what should they do if they're on one of these sites?
If you are on one of these sites and you are not following us or you're not subscribed or you have not turned on those notification bells, just do it. We're on YouTube, Spotify, X, Facebook, Instagram, all the things. Give us a like, give us a follow. Subscribe and comment. Let us know what you're thinking. If we're right, if we're wrong, we would love to call you out.